Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? Let's turn on our cameras if you're out there and you want to join us. Hello, Laurel. How you doing? Um, we know you're out there, families. Let's Jennifer coming to the rescue. How you doing, everybody? Um, good. So, I'm sure some of you guys are going to pop your cameras on too, just to join the party. So, there we go. How you doing, Don? Good to see you. Good to see some familiar names and faces on these on the list here. So, for those of you guys who don't know Blue Train, because this is going to be a mixed bag tonight, we're going to have some families who have been through this before, like the lovely faces you see before you. And then there's going to be some families that, who don't know who we are. I'm Scott. To my left here is Laurel. She's and Trisha somewhere hiding lurking around back out there. So welcome everybody. Today, what we're going to do is kind of do what we do a lot of times at this time of year, which is kind of take a snapshot of where our seniors are right now. Because if we look at the date, it's April 24th. May 1st is normally the decide by day where students will commit to colleges. This year, some of you guys may have heard, we have colleges extending their deadlines to May 15th, some of them June 1st, and that's because of the FAFSA form debacle. So a lot of students are having an extra 15 or 30 days to make their decision. So where are people now? Well, let's kind of go into it a little bit. This is kind of what we do always is we drop a link in the chat so that everybody can have this agenda. And if you want to make notes on this, a lot of people will go here and they will make a copy and then they will have the copy for themselves. So if you just can click on there, you should be able to go to the chat and click on that. Is anyone able to click on that? All right, just making sure we're able to populate the room here. And so as we go through here, these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. I want to take a snapshot of where our students are now, kind of talk about this year a little bit, because families are always curious, how admissions are changing, or are schools becoming more test mandatory, or have the UCs lost their mind? There's all these different things that are going on. And then I want to go into, the rest of the things that we're going to talk about. But to begin, it says we need access. It should have, let me see. Oh, anyone with link? Oh, because I shared it from a different one. All right, there you go. There we go. Now I see people populating on. All right. Thanks, Jen, for letting me know. So as we, this is, Laurel, this is our, well, not your and I, your and mine, but my 23rd year with Blue Train going through the process. So this is a 23rd season that we've been, I would say, the craziest year. Dawn, was Lauren during COVID? Was that the COVID year?
Part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I was gonna say
21.
I haven't seen as weird of a admissions year since COVID. This year is pretty weird. The biggest thing is that a lot of schools have been pushing people to wait lists. The UCs have been a little bit, I feel like, random. And so in trying to kind of bring all this stuff together, I'm going to try to show you what still works, what isn't working, and other things like that. But I want to show you, some of you guys probably remember this. That's an elephant. Some of you guys probably remember when we would, for those of you guys who've been through it with us before, these are what we call our horse races that our students are doing right now. These are schools that, and I can show you a bunch of them. The green checks are where the student was accepted, and then the orange ones are where they are on wait list. And we start with all the schools on the left side, and they will kind of move schools forward, in their order of their preferences. So the student is seeing Berkeley as a #1 choice right now. And what we're doing is we're seeing a lot here. Let me bring up a couple other ones. You know, and so we're in the schools here are they're still waitlisted. This one is not a, let me find one that's more indicative of the chaos. All right. So here's a student. All the blue schools they were accepted to, USC, SDU, Long Beach, UCR, and then this student is still on the wait list for 5 schools, and we are 7 days away from May 1st. 5 wait lists. It's not uncommon. We're seeing some students that have up to 6, 7 wait lists. We have students who are, obviously these are the rejects. These are the wait lists for this student, and these are the accepts. Why do I bring all this up? I bring all this up because the state of college admissions has been changing. It used to be very, simple. You'd have a test score, you'd have your grades, you would have your activities, and they would kind of sort through things that way. Now with test optional, test blind, test mandatory, that throws a wrench in the works. Schools, because of that, have decided to change how they accept students. We always used to think we could apply early action. Here, let me bring up we'll settle down in a second once we get to today's time line. But so let's say that this is, where we are now. We're reverse engineering from senior year. Right now, we're over here where the students are in their senior year, and they're kind of like figuring everything out. They are, weighing the cost of schools. They are weighing, a lot of times it's not even, is this school better than that school, or is this school better than that fit? It's, did I get my major at that school? Because I'm pre-business at Wisconsin, and that gives me a 50% chance of getting into the business school, even though I'm an accepted student. It gives me, I got accepted into North Carolina directly into the economics program. And so students aren't just looking at the schools, they're looking at the programs. Obviously, they're looking at the price tags. Students' feelings change about whether they want to go home, go away, or stay close to home. So this month tends to be very, very tumultuous, emotional, exciting for a lot of students. But what we notice is the colleges have really put a lot of the emphasis on the waitlist process. So students are applying as early as November 1st, and they are going into deferral periods, into wait lists. And what does that mean? That means a couple of things. That means that students really aren't done with their college process when they submit. They will still need to write letters of continued interest, if we remember that. We still, students have to, submit their first semester senior grades. Students need to send updates. I have a student that's updating every 2 weeks with all these things that he's doing. And we have a student that delisted themselves off of the financial aid because Vanderbilt said that they will take students off the wait list that remove themselves out of the financial aid category. So there's all these different things that are going on in senior year. So now that we know that things get a little bit wild at this time of year, now if we roll the clock back to when most of your students are over here. They are, heading into junior year, or sometimes heading into sophomore year. There might be some students heading into senior year on this call, but the majority are probably heading into junior year next year. And so what should we be thinking about heading into junior year? Well, the first thing is, wherever we are in the year, the number one thing that we always try to tell people is prioritize your courses. And I know you don't need some guy on Zoom telling you that, but we can always take ACT or SAT later. We can always do extracurriculars at a different time. We can always, redo a class if necessary. But one thing that we really need to focus on is making sure that we are finishing this school year strong, and then also setting ourselves up for a good year next year. What too many students will do coming out of sophomore year is they'll say, I want to load my course load with as many APs as I possibly can, right? So I'm going to give you guys a link that you guys can open if you want for your own school. I'm going to put this in the chat as well. I recommend, potentially bookmarking this because it's a nice little link to have. Because we can open up any school. I'm going to open up our home school that my son went to. And you can see all the courses and get a set. Obviously, your high schools will send you this too, but you can also see which schools are weighted with, a weighted bump, taking a 4 to a 5 if it's an A 3 to a 4 if it's a B. And the yellow stars represent the weighted courses. This is the UC listing, which is pretty much a gold standard when it comes to weighting courses. So you can pretty much look at this and get a good idea of how colleges are going to see your grades. One thing we also know is different high schools. You could be at Miracosta, one of our local schools, or you can be at Peninsula, one of our local schools, take the same exact courses and have different GPAs. High schools weight things differently. So a lot of times the colleges are going to recalculate. When I'm looking at, or when any of our counselors are looking at, your students' course loads, we look at the high school transcript GPA, but then we also go and we say, all right, some schools are not going to take 9th grade honors English as a bump course. Some schools are not going to take, this Algebra 1 honors as a bump course. So we try to kind of make sure that our students are all working with the level playing field, because that's what the colleges are going to do. They're going to recalculate everybody. So the question is, a lot of families ask, how important is it to take X amount of APs? I was talking to a mom yesterday and she's like, my son is determined to graduate with 10 APs. And I said, well, how does he think he's going to do? Because he's heading into senior year. And she said, well, he's planning on getting a B in 2 of them. But he just thinks that the APs are more important. And I had to quickly, voice an opinion that we see the opposite being true. If it's getting an A in a course that is not an AP, or getting a B in a course that is an AP, those both equal out to be the same number, right? So if we have an A and we get, sorry, let me rephrase this to make it a little bit simpler. A's before APs. So if we think that way and we say, all right, I'm going to not count on the AP or the honors bump to lift my numeric grade, but I'm really going to try to get as many A's as possible. Of course, we're not all straight A students. I get that. But at the end of the day, what we shouldn't be doing is hoping that the weighting system is going to lift our number and the schools are not going to look at the letters. The letters are more important than the numbers ultimately. Of course, if you are getting really good grades and straight A's and you're not challenging yourself, the schools are going to wonder, why aren't you challenging yourself? And also you'll box yourself out from certain schools. Like, we can talk about the Ivies, we can talk about Stanford, we can talk about MIT, Georgetown, Northwestern, Tufts, Caltech, all those schools that are like high-level schools that'll require you to do a number of APs. But a lot of families are looking at the UCs in California, then wondering what they need to do to go through that. I have a student right now, I kid you not. I feel bad for him, but he's on 7 wait lists, so I think some of them are going to come through. But he has taken every single AP that his school offers at Peninsula High School, which is a very, strong high school. He hasn't gotten a B in his life. He has multiple awards of the highest level. He has, he's the head of his marching band, all these different things. And then you have a student who has taken fewer APs and has like almost more breathing room in their schedule, surpassing that student. And so what does this make us realize? It makes us realize that colleges aren't looking only for the students who can carry the heaviest backpack up the steepest hill, because that's what we all think. When we don't know any better, we're like, all right, I think the colleges need me to prove that I can carry, like I can almost be miserable. I can carry so much weight, right? And colleges don't want a campus community filled with what we call grinders. They want students who can actually still have intellectual curiosities, have intellectual interests, and really be able to grow within their course load. So if someone's, we do, academic planning with families. And one of the things that we're always asking is, how did last year go? And you guys should be asking your children this. How did last year go? You've seen your children. Were they getting to bed on time? Are they not getting to bed on time? Are they stressed out? Are they happy? At the end of the day, I say this a lot, you're only 16 or 17 once in your life. And if you sell it to the college gods or college devil, whatever you want to call it, then you're not going to really be your full self, and you're going to something's probably going to be broken along the way. So if we're looking to kind of put these things into like little bite-sized sound bites, what we like to say is, take the heaviest course load where you still think you can get straight A's and you still think that you can be happy. Of course, that may not happen, the straight A's. But if you're setting yourself up for failure and you're just saying you're going to grind it out, especially if you had a rough sophomore year or a rough freshman year, the biggest mistake we see is students trying to like overcompensate, and then they push themselves down deeper, right? So always try to look at last year, try to find a level balance, and then move forward. There are some certain things that we do. I just got off a call with a family like literally 10 minutes before this started. And one of the things that, that family was realizing is that they didn't have a science in their senior year, and they only did 2 years of a foreign language. And one of the things that we really do encourage families to think about is 4 years of a science, 4 years English, 4 years math, 3 years social science minimum. That includes like econ and government, US history. It can count AP Psych, but we really wouldn't, encourage that one to be one of the ones that you count as the 3. And then hopefully 3 years of a foreign language. That is what we would call like the nutritional RDA requirement of a good course load. Obviously, if you start to nip and pull things off of there, like do 3 years of a math or 3 years of a science, you'll see a lot of schools that will meet their minimum requirements. But meeting minimum requirements a lot of times in the core classes is going to get you bitten. One of the things that we do at the end of the year, we're doing it right now with our seniors. We're going to be sending out our surveys, and then we'll get their acceptances and we'll look at it. And occasionally we'll see a student, they're like, wow, why did this student do so well? Or why did this one have a rougher time? And I will say 2 out of 3 times when I see a student that just for some reason their GPA numbers look good, their A's to B's or A's to B's to C's looks good, it's usually because some of their cores are missing, and they just really have kind of left a block out. And even if they're like, oh, I was going to be an English major, I didn't think I needed a 4th year of a math, we would still encourage that. So I want to like stop for a second. And by the way, anyone can ask a question at any time. That's how we do things here. So if you have a question, like some people will be like, does AP Psych count as a science? No. They'll say, what if I switch foreign language? I do 2 years of Spanish and I switch to American Sign Language. Will that count as a 3rd year? Yes. Is it really important to do 4 years of a foreign language to get the seal of biliteracy? Because I hear all my counselors talking about that. No, it's not that important. But any questions anyone can think out there that you can just unmute your microphone as well and just ask it, or you can just drop it into the chat if you have one. No questions about classes? All right, great. So the other thing that we would then start to really think about as we move forward is the ACT and SAT testing. As you'll see, we are going to be someone did ask a question. Let's see what it says. Okay, this is a good question. It says, how would you describe the importance of taking summer classes to get ahead? Geometry, chemistry. So I think that there is an advantage. Some students will want to take Chem AP and AP Bio because they want to go into pre-med. And so they will take, chemistry over the summer between freshman and sophomore year to set themselves up for that. Some students will want to clear the decks so they can do like AP Comp Sci, or like an elective that the school offers that they find really interesting, like sports medicine or something like that. So they might do a US history over the summer. to the point of the question, how important is it? I always say if it has a purpose, then it's useful. If you're just trying to rack up more classes, then I probably wouldn't necessarily, be pushing that so much. But if you can take a course and make space for another course, that's great. But too often what I have families do is they will do these summer courses and then they don't have courses from their school to fill those gaps that they've created. So sometimes it's better to, instead of making gaps for your school to fill in, is take courses outside of your school's parameters. Like, so maybe take like an intro to business course that your school doesn't offer over the summer, or take a sports marketing class over the summer that your school doesn't offer, or something else. So there's two ways to look at summer programs. It's either you're trying to get something out of the way so that you can use your school years more effectively to do what you want to do, or you're doing what we call enrichment courses over the summer. And when, if you want, you can just email the office and we'll send anyone a list of enrichment courses, at all the different colleges that are out there. Bob Boardman has his hand up. Let's hear a question from Bob Boardman.
Hey Scott. Actually, there was one thing that you didn't mention about the summer classes that both my kids did, and that was they took the summer class so that they took classes that they knew they were going to struggle with, along with everything else they were doing for the rest of the year. So by taking that during the summer, they could just dedicate themselves to that one class and then free up space for an elective that they really wanted to do during the year that provided a little relief against the other, like, more core curriculum that they had to.
Absolutely. I think that's a good point you bring up. Like I had a girl today that we were just talking, and she's like, I think I'm going to do calculus over the summer, to Bob's point, so that she wouldn't have to wrestle with the calculus at the same time she's doing AP Gov, AP Physics, and all those other ones, so she can remove one. That's one. Another one, not only to avoid the class, is to avoid teachers. We do see students will say like, oh, the US history teacher or this teacher at my school is really, really rough. So I'm going to try to not take any, math classes or history classes. Some high schools are wise to that. Like I think PV doesn't allow students to take more than one history class out of network. So it depends on the schools what they'll allow. But some other people just said something. So someone said, do you still recommend working towards a seal of biliteracy if that student is interested in it? Thanks, Bob. So the biliteracy, just for those of you guys that don't know what it is, if you can either do 4 years of a foreign language or achieve a certain score on an AP exam, you can get a seal of biliteracy. If it is something that is of interest to you, yeah, that's great. But if it's taking up space for something else that's less interesting to you, it's not, one of the things we really do not support, if you know anything about how we do things, is checkbox, thinking, which is like, if I just check all the boxes, the schools are going to like me. It's really about trying to become an authentic applicant and really trying to find your own path. And if getting a seal of biliteracy because you want to do global studies, international relations, or you just love culture and that's who you are, you're maybe more social sciences interested, or maybe you are STEM, or maybe you are humanities, but you really love language, then that's great. But if we're just doing it to check a box and that is stealing an opportunity to do something else, then I don't know if that's worthy of doing. It kind of reminds me of the question that we get a lot. It's really kind of funny whenever you get on with like a family and they act like, something tragic has happened, and you look at everyone and everyone looks like really, really like heartbroken and sad. And you're like, what's going on in here? Like, is everyone okay? And the student would be like, I'm thinking about quitting lacrosse. And like, everyone's just like, and well, do you want to play lacrosse? No, I'm kind of over it. My coach is a jerk. I don't really want to do it. I just like doing it for fun. Then why the sad faces, everyone? Well, aren't colleges not going to like if I don't do 4 years and I quit? And I'm like, no, everybody. Colleges are not looking for you to do things to be miserable. Colleges want intellectually curious, happy, invigorated, thriving people. So, one of our students wrote an essay that started, they say quitters never win. This quitter did. We have another student that wrote the Dear Basketball essay about quitting basketball because of a love for biology. So quitting things or not doing things is usually a sign that something else fills that vacuum is more important. So sealed biliteracy in a vacuum is great, or if it's great if it's something that you like doing, or if you really want to become, bilingual. I'm all about that because that's what that student wants to do. But again, if they're just doing it because they think that that's going to give them something special, it's almost like the Presidential Service Award a lot of students get for like 100 hours, 150 hours of volunteer service. They think getting that award certificate is like the Willy Wonka golden ticket into college, but it's not. It's like you will see students who really just kind of put their energy into something they really care about for fewer hours, and that might have longer legs than, just racking up numbers. So again, I know it's really hard. We talk about, we always like kind of bringing up the concept of, where is it here? Oh, activity shaping. I'll be over here. We always talk about like the fabricated applicant versus the authentic applicant. And some people might think this is like new agey soft talk, and the way you get into college is you act like the person on the left. Again, been doing this 23 years, would not say that's the way to go. Matter of fact, I see a lot of kids who do this, sees herself as a resume, again, checkbox mentality, takes as many APs as possible, not even necessarily in any rhyme or reason, just doing it because they think they're racking things up, moves head down through stress, really isn't thinking about, her own well-being, conforms to what she thinks colleges want rather than who she is, and then explores the world around her, thrives with inspired course selections, navigates challenges mindfully, embraces individuality and personal growth. I know if you look at this, you're like, but what does this mean? Like, who is this person on the right? How does that equate to college acceptances? Because if you actually believe this and you actually think about the things that you care about and you actually make choices, whether it's quitting lacrosse or sticking with lacrosse or getting the biliteracy or, taking AP physics, even though, it's a hard one, or whatever you think you're going to do, like, as long as you're doing it from a genuine space, we say, if you're doing that, odds are not only are you going to do better in college, but you're going to be a more well-developed, evolved person as you head off to college. And I know there's a lot of people on this call, because I recognize the names, that have children already in college. And one of the things we care about our kids in college, it's not just like the degree name that they get when they come home. It's like when you see your child come home from school, they're different. You're excited to see how they've changed. You're excited to see how they've grown. So one of the things that I'm always trying to say is like, start that process in high school. Like, really try to think about like how you're helping your child find themselves, right? So that's it. So someone wrote, my sophomore is doing that with US history over the summer. Yeah, that's a common one, Dawn, that we see. And what I always say is just try not to bury things if it becomes like a signal. Like, some schools will let you do all your social sciences over the summer, or they'll let you do all your Englishes over the summer. And I always say, try not to do all of them, because that's sending a signal that you're staying away from it. Of course, if you do, one science, one math, you're just kind of spreading it out a little bit. And you're like, to Bob's point, you're just kind of literally making space so you can have a smarter schedule for you. Some students will often also take a course over the summer so that they can have, again, to Bob's point, have more breathing room. Like, they'll take like, a US history over the summer, or they go to like a school like Fusion or something like that and do an AP US history or whatever they might do over the summer. And then they might take ceramics during the school year. So they don't have any homework in that class. They can get their hands in clay. They can just like breathe and be human beings. But if you look at their year, they've still taken all those hard courses. They just plopped one into the summer and they've created a breathing section. So what I worry too many people do is they move it to the summer and then they just pack that up. Again, it's just like this blind train of, I just need to carry as much up the hill. Someone asked, should we take classes to do with our career choice or take classes to finish first year of college earlier? That's a good question. So a lot of times when when we're helping students with their courses, what we're asking them is, of course, what majors are you thinking about? But you ever want to see existential terror on like a 16-year-old, ask them what they want to be when they grow up, and they're just like, I don't know. Like, do I need to know that right now? Like, because I do a lot of college list building, as do the other counselors here, and sitting with a student, and a lot of times, like you see, like the parent next to them, almost like Rocky's trainer, like trying to like, she's okay, you'll be fine. You're like, don't worry about it. You don't need to get into your decisions yet. But what we try to say is, it's nice to start thinking about I think it's Valencia. To Tanya, sorry, to Tanya's question, instead of thinking necessarily about a career, this is a good time to talk about playground 1, 2, and 3. So we talk about playground 1. Playground 1 is everything up until the day you submit your first application. What do you genuinely like? Do you like tide pools and marine science? Do you like numbers and statistics? Have you like sold erasers behind the lunchroom and you're like little entrepreneur? Like, who are you? Like, just push yourself into your love of something. And then that creates a breadcrumb trail. And then that becomes a key to get into college, because a lot of times they're looking at the breadcrumb trail, your course selection, your activities, your accomplishments, how well you did in all these things. That creates a pathway into college, because they're like, oh, this kid's won a lot of, journalism awards, or this young woman has done a lot with robotics, or this kid obviously loves languages because he's doing 3, and then he's also on his activities talking about learning languages on Duolingo apps and all these other things that they're doing. So rather than thinking necessarily into the future where you know what career you're going to be doing, it's almost thinking about like, what do I love now, and how can I like manifest that into the best key to open up the door to college, where the next playground starts. Because to be honest with you, the reason why so many kids change majors in college isn't because they suddenly like are like unable to make decisions. It's really that they just were never exposed to things. And so going to college is really a second playground that they never had. They now have classes that they've never seen before. There's departments they've never been in before, communications, business, finance, there's all these things. Then that opens up all these different worlds. And then they move to, after they graduate, after they get their major, I was talking to my son today about changing his major. After they graduate, then they will go into the real world. And I then playground 3, I talk about the lily pads. A lot of times you will jump on your first lily pad and you will like that job, some things about it, and you will not like other parts of it, and then you will jump to your next job. Parents on this call, a lot of people have average jobs, 7 to 15 years on average. Me, 20, 25 here, 23 here. But today's generation, a lot of students are going between 2 and 5 years for jobs, at least in their first few. So they have exploration. Exploration continues. So when we're making our course loads and we're doing everything, maybe it's just this is our job, but we're really thinking about like, how does this help you develop as a human, and how does that open the door to the most college options for you? And some students will apply to different majors at different schools because they want to kind of split. They want to do business here and they want to do sports management there. They want to do environmental science here and they want to do, marine biology there. Someone else just asked another question, says, if you take APs, do you have to take the AP exam, or does that not reflect well? Ever since COVID, students have been ducking out of AP exams and kind of like leaving them off their applications. Obviously, if you don't take an AP exam, the schools do notice it. So we've had students, on an application, let me just show people really quickly. Here, I'll bring up the Common App. Common App is the application you'll be applying to the majority of schools outside the UC and Cal State system. When you're on the Common App, you will see, and also the UC schools, you will see down here additional information. This is where you can explain anything, AP scores, what happened, how did you fix it, what did you learn, no science course senior year. whatever you're explaining, you can kind of do it here. You don't do it in your essays. Don't use your essays for that. So for example, we've had students, to your question, Don, that have not taken an AP exam and said, because I was taking 3 APs or because I was really aware of my other courses, I really focused on 2 of them and didn't take the third one. And I did well on those. Or, you know, sometimes you don't do well and you can say my teacher, or you can kind of like say like this happened, but there's a way to kind of put a corrective lens on it here. Or sometimes you just, you know, don't mention it. You hope they don't see it. I'm usually try to like grab the bull by its horns because I think that um, hoping they don't see it is kind of wishful thinking because they will notice most times if you don't do it. So we usually try to find a corrective measure that we can explain why a student wouldn't take a course. Let me see. There's one more came in. What where do you recommend to get exposure and passion for and find that passion for something? Well, that's something that we call like activity shaping, which is we'll sit with a student and you know I had a senior, not one of our students, but she had not gotten into the colleges she wanted, so she called us and we were going through all of her majors and she was talking about the you know, the questions that she had, I mean, about the major she had chosen, and it was like engineering, and I was like, what makes you think engineering is for you? And she's like, well, because I like design, but I don't want to be in interior design. Then we started like literally ferreting out that she likes futuristic things, but she doesn't really like the math aspects. And then, you know, UCSD is speculative design. And she saw this after and she's like, I didn't even know that was a major. So a lot of times it's like helping students see what's out there. Obviously, we do that, but also it's really talking to your child and asking them what you like. Obviously, you see these instruments behind me. When my son was in high school, he's a sophomore in college now. When he was in high school, you know, smart kid, but he didn't really like any of his classes at school, but he loved music. So I was like, he'd show up and there was a drum set in the living room. There's like a violin the next time. Like I'm just trying to feed his passion. So a lot of times I'll say to you know, if we have an activity shaping session, whether it's myself or one of the other counselors, we'll say, you know, if your parents give you $500 right now to do a project, what would you do? That has to be something, you know, that actually does something. Some students will be like, I'd build a PC, or I would build a mountain bike, or I'd buy a telescope and just look at the stars, or I would, you know, get scuba certified. Like everybody has interests. A lot of times we kind of like dismiss them because it's like video games or it's sports, you know, fantasy football, but all those things have relevance. So I'm always the first thing to do is to not ignore what your child is showing interest in already. That's the first step. Then it's to try to project out of that and really get a sense of, you know, what that can lead to. And then just kind of like throw the grappling hook one step further. Oh, you like fantasy football? Maybe you would like sports analytics. You know, watch the movie Moneyball, watch a documentary, read the book, you know, like, so it's always kind of like trying to like help students find those paths of things. And to be honest with you, that's one of the most gratifying parts of this job is working with families. And the parents, a lot of times, like, she's not going to tell you because she thinks that she can't make any money being creative, but she's so creative. And you're like, well, let's talk about the creative aspect. And so there's always things that people have in them. It says guidance programs for junior. So, you know, as far as the hand holding and, you know, someone's asking questions, I'm going to get to that in the wrap up. I want to kind of like, Beth, I'll get to that at the end. But I do want to kind of hit some big points here because I know a lot of families have questions about, you know, like how are things changing on SAT, ACT landscape. So this is our blue list. This is the search engine that we created. Extremely helpful. Some of you parents already know this because you've used it before. But if we Google test mandatory and we see the schools that now require SATs, it's still a short list. Some of you guys have probably heard Dartmouth, Yale, UT Austin just joined, and Brown just joined the club. But it's still, what is this, like 12, 14 schools or something like that? Do we expect that we'll see more schools next year having a requirement? Yes. Do we think it's going to be a total overhaul that every school is going to go towards test? Remember, there's test mandatory where you have to submit, there's test optional where you can, and there's test blind, which is like the UCs and Cal States, which even if you do great, you're not allowed to submit them. So students will often ask, should I submit a score? And one of the things we'll say is, only if your test score is actually adding value to your application. I had a mom recently just say to me, I was looking at the common data set and I saw that 60% of the students accepted submit test scores. And I said, cool, but if your student's test score is not going to help their application, they should be in the 40% group. So you have to really make a decision, and you don't need to do it now. You can take an ACT or an SAT, and one of the things that we recommend families do is, go anywhere you want. Obviously, we'd be happy to do it. Fill out this, and we'll send you a ACT paper and pencil, one that you can print out and take and score. And then this is our digital platform that we're using for the SAT. And this allows students to go in and, see what the digital format. A lot of them have taken the PSAT, but this way students can kind of compare themselves with a paper and pencil ACT and a digital SAT and see which one is better. Or some families will then do this. And again, a lot of you guys know we do free meet and greets. So a lot of times we ask students to do the ACT versus SAT, and then, comparing the tests and seeing, which score was higher. Do you prefer paper or pencil? And then which timeline works better for you? Because again, not only is it, which score is higher, but there's different timelines. SAT falls right in. The SAT is not the nicest timeline, because there's one before AP season, there's one after AP season, right in the middle of finals. But it kind of like gets very exhausting for students. And then some students will say, oh, I'm going to do it at the beginning of junior year. We usually see students who try to knock it out early, as you'll see here. While many students come into the process hoping to get their testing over with first semester junior year, experience has shown students who test later, climbing the score with the multi-test process, see the highest score improvements, even if that means going into senior year. We like students to do 1 or 2 tests in the spring and 1 or 2 in the fall. So if you do 2 in the spring and you're done, great. If you do 2 in the spring and then you need another test in the fall, then you do that. But our job during a meet and greet is to look at your scores and advise you if we think it would be wise for you to put the energy into test prep or testing, or if it's better off you just go in as a student without testing. The only time that you can't make that decision is if you are applying to one of these schools. We've seen Georgetown, for example, push a lot of kids to go test, because that school for students who are into international studies is very unique. So we do see students going that way for that. I do want to stop for a second and say, throw out some questions about testing. Obviously, I'm talking really fast because I'm trying to squeeze a lot in this time. But obviously, testing is a big question. Testing can not only help. Well, let me back up for 1 second. First of all, I have always thought schools should be test optional. I don't think schools should be test mandatory. I don't think schools should be test blind. I had a student recently interview me for the paper, and she said, do you think schools should be test blind / test optional or test mandatory? And I was like, those two shouldn't be slashed together. Those are 3 different things. The UC's going test blind was actually a mistake. They had done studies that showed that testing can help them sort students out. So when they did that, now they're realizing the UCs are probably going to correct themselves in probably a few years from now, once the, that dies down and they course correct. but I don't think test mandatory is fair either, because there are a lot of great students that have anxiety, a lot of great students who have timing issues, all these different things. So test optional allows everyone to shine in their best way. So with that said, I just want everyone to understand, we as a company, we're never pushing people to test if we think it's not the best thing for them. We're not like everyone should test. We're not like, college admissions are getting harder every year. If you don't test, you won't have the advantage. Like, let other people scare you. That is not healthy for the child. That usually turns into anxiety that comes out their pencil. That usually turns into parents biting their nails. That usually turns into friction. It's all these things. So the first thing is really make a wise decision if you should be testing. And if you should be testing, which test should it be? Too often families come to us, they say, I'm going to take the SAT. Did you do a diagnostic comparison? No, my brother took it, and I think that's what I should take. Or I heard this one, or I did that. And so often, like Laurel or Trisha, who's here too, will say that is something that we will often see they were going down the wrong path, and just by a test switch, their scores will go up. So always do a diagnostic comparison. When is a good time to do that? After sophomore year, heading into junior year. Like over the summer is a really good time. Set up a meet and greet with us. We can help you process, things and set you up on a path. Whether you're going to do test prep with us, doesn't even matter. Just we want to make sure that you're doing the right test at the right time. Hey, Laurel, speaking of right time, I'm going to ask you to kind of give away some giveaways here. Let's see. For families that are already Blue trainers, Laurel wrote down everybody's name from the Zoom call. For students who are already Blue trainers, we will give a free workshop, a personal statement, or a UCPIQ summer workshop. If you are a non-Blue trainer family, we'll give you a 6-month subscription to a Blue list. So let's just pick 4 out of the hat real quick, Laurel, and then I'm going to give away an on track.
All right. I am going to read the name exactly as it appears in your Zoom box. So you will. All right, ready? First winner is ANH. Good example. ANH. Is it Anne? If you could please send me a chat with your name and email, we can give you your award. I believe it'll be a 6-month Blue list. And congratulations.
Can you hear that? All right. All right. Next one. Thanks, Lola. Oh, Anna, you there?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay, great. Are you a non-Blue trainer?
Yes, I'm non-Blue trainer.
Okay, so
But
Laura,
I'm going to sign up soon this weekend. Because I love y'all. I love it so much. So I'm going to sign up soon. I just need to talk to my daughter to see what service she needs.
you're sweet, but you already got a 6-month Blue list. So look at that.
And I'm going to interrupt real quick. You'll love the Blue list. It's amazing.
Oh.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jennifer. We'll pay you later for that little plug. Next one, Laurel.
Okay, the next one is Rashi. Rashi, congratulations. I believe Rashi just did a meet and greet with us. I have your email address, Rashi, so I will send you your prize.
And if they were a meet and greet, and if they were on the cusp, we can always move it over to a workshop for Rashi.
We've done this before. Basically, all Blue trainers get access to the Blue list. So we may give you a Blue list, and if you decide to purchase a package or become a Blue trainer, then we'll just credit your account for a workshop in the future.
Yeah.
All right, next
Hi,
one. Joy's iPhone. Joy's iPhone. Congratulations. I don't have your name and email, so please send a direct message to Laurel with your name and email.
And let her know if you're a Blue trainer or not, because it's hard on some of these names. And Laurel, one more.
One more.
We got to get some Blue trainers here with some workshops.
I have Diana Flynn. Diana Flynn still here?
Diana Flynn.
There was a Diana Flynn.
Yep,
I'm
she's
here.
there.
Hi, Diana.
Hi.
Congratulations.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. And now we're going to give away a free on track, which is for families who who know us, one of the things is that a lot of what we do, we have this, and for the newer families, you guys don't know the token system, which isn't as scary as it looks. Everybody calm down. The token system is because different services require different levels of expertise. Our people that do on-track, the minimum, they've been working with Blue Train for at least 6 or 7 years, maybe more. Some of them is 8 or 10 years. So everyone that does, academic planning, activity shaping, major exploration, and this can all be fluid within one session. You can talk a little bit about majors and a little bit of college list building even. But we are going to give away one free on track right now to a family, whether you're a Blue Train family or not.
And the winner is Beth Dorn.
Beth Dorn, look at that.
Woohoo! Thank you.
You're
You
welcome.
got it. You got it. And actually, Laurel, were any of those Blue Train workshops that we give away?
I'm not exactly, so as of now, no. Joy's iPhone, I don't think Joy is an active Blue Trainer, so she would not get a workshop. Oh, here we go. No, Joy will
All right,
get.
then we got it. We got to keep giving until we at least get
Okay.
until we at least get a Blue
Workshop for a
Trainer, because all these Blue Trainers are here. We gotta help the cause.
Keanu, are you an active Blue Trainer?
He did meet and greet, I think.
Yeah, I know you did a meet and greet. Have you signed up with Blue Train yet? Let me check. I think so. All
Well-
right. So Keanu, if you are not signed up yet, we will.
Yes, but he has an on track scheduled.
You have an on-track scheduled. Awesome. Okay. So
So,
Keanu
right.
is,
all right, Laurel, one more. All right, come on.
all right. I picked another one, and it's Jennifer Bell. And I
Oh, look at that.
know Jennifer is an active Blue Trainer. So
Yeah.
congrats.
I got it the last time, which I've used and I've loved, but I'd like to give it to another Blue Trainer.
Oh, look at
Okay.
that. Look at that.
Yeah.
The love is in the
No.
house. Like,
What
thanks,
is-
man.
So
Sweetheart.
yeah,
It's so sweet.
whoever's the first Blue Trainer on, just shout out. No, I'm just kidding.
I think we got a couple.
Yeah.
Pick a number.
Dawn.
Make it more
Dawn
complicated.
Donatoni.
Oh, look at that.
Another active Blue Trainer.
There you go. All right, guys. Awesome.
Congratulations.
So
Don,
Mike-
I have a question quickly regarding the ACT, SAT.
yes.
So what, does it make a difference if you do the paper or the digital? And when you sign up to get the diagnostics so that Isabella can do both, are they always paper or is it online? How does that work?
So when you take the SAT, you no longer have an option of paper and pencil. It's digital for everybody.
Okay. Yeah.
So you basically have to, and the test has changed. And if you want a preview of it, you can go to our digital SAT and go down here and click this, and that'll walk you through the differences of the new SAT, so you can kind of see a little bit about it and kind of learn. Like the new SAT, there are advantages to it because it's a shorter test. It's like half as long as the paper and pencil ACT. The essays are no longer a big long essay with 10 questions. It's one short with one question. One short. So students are having less of that bobblehead of looking around and trying to find things, where that is a problem for a lot of students with that. So, but also there's a flip side to it. The digital SAT is not always the easiest for students who aren't really good at mental math, because you can't like write on the screen. You can't engage with figures the way you can on paper and pencil. Of course, you can recreate it on scratch paper, but there's like a disconnect for some students. So when we send it to you, you're definitely gonna get a paper and pencil ACT, and then we give 2 options for the SAT. You can use our software, which will enable you to do 40 questions and get a score, and that's like a short one. Or you can like go on College Board, the Blue Book, and do a full length one if you want to. We encourage people to do the short ones. We're really Because what we find is when people do diagnostics, if they do full length exams, test prep companies love it because student scores are low because they're disengaged, they're tired, they're bored, it doesn't matter. Like they're like, ah. So what we really try to do is we really try to encourage students to do abbreviated, a shortened ACT, which is called a plan, and a shortened SAT, which is like we call the digital practice test. And we send both of those to you. This way Isabella can get it done like in a short amount of time, and it really just be a skills comparison without being an endurance comparison. But students, I'll be honest, I thought when SAT went to digital that they were going to lose a lot of students. We're kind of shocked that students are kind of jumping on board with it more. They do like the short passages, and some students just feel more comfortable on a computer than they do like scribbling and scantroning, so you
And
just
then
gotta
once he takes both of those, then that's when you guys would look at it and we could decide which way to. So, but I was hearing I think it was about the SAT, that it was a dynamic test, that it kept getting, based on how you did, it kept getting harder or directed you differently, right? And so there was a lot of.
Yeah. So if I go here, I'm going to go to end the module, and all right, so let's go back here. Let's say I completed this test, and I'm going to view my analysis. And so if you see here, module 1, everyone gets the same first section. So whether it's your reading, writing, or your math, everybody gets the same exact first section. If you do well on the first section, then the test gets more difficult in the second module. And so it's called adaptive. If you don't do well, the second module will be easier. Obviously, the first module is very important because that will create your floor and your ceiling for the next module. So, we don't want students to make careless errors in module 1 and then get the easy module for the second one, because then their overall potential will be lower. So when, students are practicing, they start to understand, the importance of the adaptive nature of the test and do it that way. But it's nothing to be afraid of. It's the way that the ACT and the old SAT worked. It was always escalating difficulty. So it's pretty much the same thing, unless you don't do well in the first module, then it's de-escalating. But yeah, did that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you got it. So I know we're running late, but I just want to try to like charge through a couple of other things here. So on that agenda that I put, these are just like quick links if you want to see things. Second semester junior year. So let's talk about junior year in a nutshell really, really quickly. For those of you that are, so this is junior year. As I mentioned, we're really not fans of students trying to crunch in their ACT or SAT in first semester. So we don't even put that on our timeline. We believe first semester junior year, you should be focusing on your courses, really setting your pace, right? Then you go into second semester junior year, which is here. Then a lot of students are busy with APs. They have their spring musical, they have their spring sport. There's just a lot of stuff going on. So kids can't always do what they want to be doing second semester, but if they do have time, what we encourage our families to start doing is, stepping up their extracurriculars. And, one of the things that we're always saying is extracurriculars need not be formal. They do not need to be the Boeing internship. They do not need to be, a world's robotics competition. It could be lots of different things. And one of the things, I don't even know if I have it. It would probably take me a second. Activities. What did I label this as? Yeah, I can't find it right now. I don't want you guys to I don't want to be wasting your time, but a lot of times what we're encouraging students to do is think about the things that they already do. Like, are you someone that is, building stuff? Are you someone that is, cooking with your parents, and that is teaching you a hobby while you're also learning about culture because you're cooking dishes from various cultures. Are you bonding with your, like, there's so many things that people already do in their own world that they're not actually tagging as activities. That's the first step. The second step is to kind of like lean into the things that you actually like or love and try to make more inroads that way. Too many families think that you have to be doing things 9th through 12th. We have students, families who've gone through this process before know about the hierarchy. When you make your activities, you will not only have a list of them, you will put the ones that are the most important to you at the top. And there are some students that will spend 4 years in band or 4 years in tennis, and they've only spent 2 months being obsessed with, I'm going to say sports management again, because it's just in my head. Then that student can really move that to the top of the hierarchy, even though it's a late, activity for them. It can weigh in heavily on their application if they move it up the hierarchy. So what we're really trying to tell students to do is like junior year, senior summer, senior year, first semester, these are still times to explore. One of the most active times students really dig into their extracurriculars is between junior and senior year. Obviously, if you can dig into things between sophomore and junior year, also great. Whether you're doing an enrichment class or, just finding ways to kind of, explore your interests. And again, it's hard to speak generically about this because everybody's interests are so different. That's why we really like to get and isolate you guys and like talk to you and say like, all right, what are you doing? Can we do this? And kind of push that way. That would be an on track. Then moving on, college list building. I mean, one of the things that anyone that's worked with us knows is, not only do we love building college lists, we also built this search engine. So in all this research that we've done for the search engine, in keeping it up to date that we do, we learn a lot about schools. We talk to students constantly. We're opening things up. We're writing notes for them. We're jumping into their, their dorms. We're going into course catalogs. We have all their views. There's Google Earth drop-ins. There's 10,000 videos on here. There's all sorts of things. So, making college lists, if there's one thing that I think that the majority of the counselors, I mean, we all love essays. We love essay writing. It's our heart, but college list building is probably the most fun. It's really fun to help students find schools, to really dig through things, to just get an understanding of everything that's out there, whether it's the culture, it's the, students come out college lists from, I know my major and my program, help me find them, or I have no idea my major and my program. I just know what type of environment I'm looking for. And so we'll talk about like, okay, are you someone who is going to be, staying local and kind of going to schools around your area? Are you going to be going to radius schools you can drive to? Or are you going, shooting out of a cannon to, Maine or Florida or wherever, and really just getting a sense. And we, the thing that I think it's kind of sad, we never like people. We genuinely want everyone to have a great college process. Blue Train students are not, we're not like, oh, we want only our kids. And it makes us sad when we have a family that comes to us after they got their shakeout from their schools as seniors, and they just didn't apply to enough schools, or they'd applied to I don't want to say the wrong schools, but they didn't apply to a lot of schools they could have. They did the same amount of work, but they didn't maximize it by finding schools that, had fewer supplemental essays. Having a good list of schools is critical. You're doing all this work for your grades. You're spending all this time writing your essays. You're taking tests. You're getting letters of rec. You're doing all that stuff. Have a good list. This doesn't mean that you need to jump on a plane and fly all over America and spend, thousands and thousands of dollars visiting schools. But I mean, it's doing your research or having someone like us help you kind of flash the light on places and build together a list. And you've heard us talk about the Amazon shopping cart philosophy. When you're building a list in the beginning, like when we give someone a blue list in the beginning, we say, just start adding schools. Throw as many schools on there as you can. And you saw the list I just had. You saw the red, the yellow, the green. That's based on the student's GPA, and that's based on the type of major they're applying to. But get a lot of schools. Then later, once you start to process, go through, start to play Jenga, make it more proportional, maybe move some schools to a second wave because you might need to, you may not have enough time to do all those apps on the early part. College list building, what'd you say, Don? College list building was one of the best parts of my older daughter working at Blue Train. Such great info and knowledge around so many schools, most that we didn't even know anything about. She ended up in one of those schools. She ended up in Michigan, University of Michigan. I'm sure she's happy, right?
Loves it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, you know, as we, let me just, I'm going to start to close up here because I know I'm taking too much of your time and probably get you to eat dinner. So how does Blue Train work? The way we work is families will quite often go here to the token estimator quiz over here, and they will, you know, say I'm a junior. I have currently a 4.2. I'm not taking any ACT or SAT exams. I want to do complete college list building. I want to do applications and essays. And I want to have, to Beth Dorn, who had asked, you know, do you have a lot of hand holding? That's the option of the Blue Train Guided. This is when you actually have a counselor who oversees all your kind of services. And they, you know, this option is for the families looking for the most supportive journey. A dedicated counselor will oversee every step of your process, including course and activity shaping, timeline planning, specialist placement. When we say specialist placement, it's because we have a team. We have a test prep team, ACT and SAT, not all the same people. We have essay team. We have college counselors. We have Laurel, helps people with like financial aid, FAFSA. And then there's we have an academic team that does AP courses and all that stuff. So it's not, with Blue Train, it's not one person who's like, hi, I'm John, and I'm going to put on my ACT hat and I'm going to put on my college. We have a team that does everything, and it's a very kind of fluid team, but a Blue Train Guided version of this is that student would then have the one person that oversees all those different pieces together. And then that person clicks that, then they would go to don't get scared. They would go to the here, and it's this person's between 400 and 600. So a lot of times people will have two options. Some families will try to be economical and go for the smaller option. And then if they go into overages, they'll just pay it. Some students will go into the larger package just so they have a little bit more breathing room. One thing that we do kind of want to show people is the rates go down dramatically with the bigger package. You know, if you see over here of a deluxe package, academic is 72, test preps 108, workshops are 120, 144. And if you do pay hourly, it's this. So a lot of families will land in their comfort zone. Families can also like upgrade a package if they want to. I don't know how that works. Supposedly there's magic involved. But in addition to all that, the other thing I'll just show you in the next, for our seniors, they're going to be getting a portal, and this is just our design on it, but it's almost completed. So our students, in addition to the blue list, they will be getting a portal where they can go through and have activities, and they can see their let me see. They'll be able to keep all their academics in one place, their ACT, SAT. They'll keep a running list of their activities, all their notes. So when it's time to do the application, they're literally going to be taking that information and have it all. And we're encouraging our juniors and sophomores to start these notes now. Then they will have a port right into their blue list so they can kind of access it that way. They will have all their essays here so they can write them. It's an automatic save. And so they can keep their supplements. They save them by their names, and it's just going to be really easy with all the prompts for all the schools there. They're going to have the calendar. All the resources from the town halls like this will be, you'll click on that month and it'll bring up the newsletter from that month, the town hall recording, and anything else like the tracking sheet, the agenda that we had. And then you will have a, so you can see all how your tokens are being used and, all that stuff. That is literally going to be done. Laurel and I meet regularly with our developers, and we're literally 3 weeks away from that launch. So, the families that are already Blue Trainers, you'll be getting your portal in June. And so we're excited about that. We're also revamping the Blue List and, doing all these cool things to it to make it even better. So yeah, we're excited about a lot of the things to come. I'll just kind of say it for the families that don't know us. We really do. I think the families that are on here will attest to it. We really do enjoy doing this. We really love working with families. It's not an imposition for us to pick up the phone and talk to nervous parents or parents who are like uncertain about things. It actually makes us happy. Helping is as a positive feeling thing. Nothing is better than this time of year, sitting with students and as they smile and they tell you what school they're committing to. It's great, families realizing that they are getting scholarships because they picked schools that they could target. It's just, a lot of people will ask us, how can you do it? Isn't it so stressful? It's not. It's like, I mean, it is because there's deadlines and stuff like that. But also when you've been around the block 23 times, you start to kind of like know the lay of the land. And we really do like walking people around the block. So if you aren't with us and you want to, set up a meet and greet, just reach out to the office. If you are with us and you want to set up an on track, just, reach out. And if you are with us and you don't want to set up an on track or anything right now, then just hold tight and we'll be sending you your portal in about 5 weeks. And that's going to be exciting. Laurel, do you have any closing arguments? I can't hear you. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, I do not. I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight, and thank you, Scott, for leading us on a great spring open house.
Oh, well, thanks everyone. And we're going to send out the recording of this to people in case they need to go back and check anything out. But thanks everyone. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank
care.
you. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Yeah, bye guys.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Laurel.
Thanks, Bob.
Bye, Bob.